Family, the apple doesn't far fall from the tree. You can see why Hunter Biden was so reckless with his laptops after you see the way that Mr. 10%, the big guy, Joe Biden, handles classified documents, right?
Oh, that's right.
Well, the man who changed the story on Biden Inc., really, is John Paul McIsaac. He is the repair shop owner who Hunter Biden went to, randomly, to fix his laptops and yes, there were multiple laptops. Fix his laptops after they were had suffered some liquid damage.
I don't even want to know about that.
Neither do I.
Please, let's move on.
Wait till you hear what his password is.
Oh my gosh.
John Paul McIsaac has got a new book out, American Injustice: My Battle to Expose the Truth. John Paul McIsaac, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning. By the way, there are some excerpts from John Paul's book being published in the New York Times. But, let's go. Buy the book. Buy the guy's book, too. You can read the experts, but buy the guy's book. All right, John Paul. So let's start at the beginning. You're trying to close up, and in walks Hunter Biden.
Yep. That was April 12th of 2019. It was a Friday night. I was very excited to get out of the shop. Unfortunately, when Hunter showed up with 3 liquid damaged laptops, I knew my evening was going to change. I didn't know my whole life was going to change.
Did you know it was him? I mean, did you recognize him?
I'm visually impaired, so at first I didn't know who he was because I never really paid attention to what the Biden offspring looked like. So when he came in, standard customer check-in procedure is when I found out who he was, when I asked for his first name and last name. I also kind of put everything together when one of the laptops had a Beau Biden sticker on it. So but back then, his dad wasn't running for president. It was like 2 weeks before his dad announced. So this was just some drunk kid who was trying to get memories off of what I assumed was his deceased brother's laptops.
Wait, do you smell alcohol on his breath?
He was drunk, yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Maybe he spilled some beer on it.
No, the crack makes you thirsty. So then you... So 3 laptops, and how many were salvageable?
One was a complete write-off. Again, I felt bad for Hunter, so I gave him a keyboard so he could facilitate his own backup of the second laptop. The third one was the one that I had to check in, that I recovered the data from, and he failed to pay for it, failed to pick up, and then that's the one I eventually gave to the FBI.
What was the password on that one?
I don't know. Is this a family-oriented show?
It is, yeah. You can't say it.
Oh, no, you text me what the password was.
Well, it's anal sex 69, but it's not sex.
Oh.
A euphemism for sex, right?
I knew this was going to get gross the more I checked them in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was his password, right?
Yeah.
Anal sex 69. And once you got into that laptop, what did you happen upon?
Well, during the data, if a data recovery process is fully automated, I would not even see what's on the data. I would just let the software go and do its forensic clone and be done with it. Unfortunately, because this is liquid damage, I had to manually drag and drop folders and files because the computer kept shutting down. And during that process of manually copying data and verifying what was copied, that's when I realized that this was not Beau's computer, this was Hunter's. And the guy that was in my shop that previous night was also the guy that was starring in a lot of the homemade porn. So it was gross, but again, I didn't see a national security threat there. I saw a lot of money exchanging hands, but again, this guy's dad wasn't running for president. So I did the job. I called him, told him to come pick it up. He never came and picked it up, never paid for it. And then after his dad announced his candidacy and things progressed, I realized I was sitting on a time bomb. And someday somebody's going to find that piece of paper in Hunter's possession saying that I was allowed to do what I did. And somebody's going to come looking for that laptop and come looking for me.
So did you call the FBI then?
I called the FBI after it became my property. Actually, I sent my father out because I was worried about good old boy politics. I only live about 10 miles from Joe's house. So I sent my father, who's a retired colonel in the Air Force, to reach out to the FBI in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where they live, to alert them to the existence of the laptop and to provide me with some form of security or safety should somebody come looking for it.
But wait, let's rewind a second, though. By the way, I love the quip in there. Once you come upon a file, as you're transferring the files, you're recovering the files, that indicates his taxable income for the last several taxable years. You're like, and it's in the millions of dollars. You're like, and this guy can't afford a backup drive. Great, I love that. Very commonsensical. But what was it that you saw that you said, oh, this is going to be a problem? The people are going to come looking for me to get it because the porn, the home porn video is not a good look, but that's not a national security issue. So what did you see that prompted you to take the next steps and get your dad involved and get the FBI contacted?
Well, initially I saw a document during the data transfer that was titled income. And when I inspected the document, one line kind of stuck out. It was from his accountant basically saying, well, Hunter, you can't live off of $550,000 a year, so we're going to have to borrow, quotes, money from this other business that he had set up. And it just looked really shady. And I remember seeing Burisma mentioned several times in that document. And later in the summer, as Burisma started to show up in the news cycles, and this was the summer of 2019, I did a deep dive in the laptop. And then that's when I saw this blatant pay-for-play scheme running out of the office of the vice president. And the members in this pay-for-play scheme included our current adversaries, China, Russia. The war in Ukraine feels like deja vu because the same players are involved, and we're sending billions of dollars into Ukraine again.
Was there anything directly linking to President Biden?
Yeah. The one email, especially what I call the Burisma grift, was the email between Hunter and Devin that was basically outlining their entire strategy for how to capitalize off of all this money that's being poured into Ukraine during the first Ukraine-Russia war. And, Hunter was describing, he can't control his father's actions or what he's going to say, but we're going to market him as value added so we can show Burisma what we bring to the table. And it was, and then the next day, Devin went to the White House and had a sit down with Joe. So
you're talking about Devin Archer, a business partner of Hunter Biden's, who then subsequently was sentenced to a year and a day in prison.
Yep, that guy.
Mm-hmm. And so yeah, this is important. So you get the laptops, you fix the laptops, you call them to come pick it up. So that's in April, and you're saying you don't go back and look at the laptop that had all the documents you recovered, files you recovered, until months later when you remember seeing like a keyword here, a keyword there, and now there's news reports about this, and so that's when you went back to really look around in with more detail.
Yeah, about mid-July when it became my property, I did that deep dive. It didn't take me long. It only took me a couple of weeks to realize that this is something that needed to be handed over to the authorities immediately, not just for my safety, but for the safety of the nation. And then in August, actually it was October 9th, my father approached the FBI in Albuquerque. And during this time, the impeachment hearings had begun. So now there was like an added layer of urgency because what I had seen on this laptop definitely would have exonerated the president of any impeachment trial. So it was now an effort to give me protection, find some way to save my skin if somebody comes after me, get this criminality to the authorities, and then let's try to prevent the national embarrassment of an impeachment. So
did you talk about it with like any of your friends or fellow business, small local business people in town? I mean, there had to be scuttlebutt about the Bidens going back, generations. Was he a topic of conversation at all?
I really did not want to talk about anything that had to do with the Bidens while that thing was in my possession. I live in Biden territory, and I was completely aware that if word got out of what I was trying to do, just trying to get criminality to the authorities, I would be run out of town on a pitchfork. So, and which is actually what happened. So it's kind of all my efforts for self-preservation kind of failed in the end.
There's been a lot of scuttlebutt about him with younger girls. We're not talking age appropriate. We're talking about minors. Did you see any of that on his laptop, or is that just a rumor? Or do you not know?
I don't typically like talking about the contents of the laptop, especially when there's innocent people involved. I will say that the levels that have been reported by several individuals to the tune of 80 gigs or 80,000 images of CP, that's a complete lie. There have been multiple attempts for individuals to insert fake data into this laptop to discredit the laptop. And unfortunately, a lot of people have bought into this idea that there is this tremendous amount of evil on this laptop. There's enough evil on the laptop. We don't need to make up any additional evil. As far as underage children, there's only the relationship with the niece that I saw that was incredibly inappropriate.
What were they doing? Or do we have to find that out in your book?
I don't want to, again, talk about it.
Okay.
Your dad goes to the FBI, and what happens?
The FBI, he says, here's the situation. My son's, he has fears for his son's life, and the FBI says, oh, this sounds like a civil issue. Questioned the legality of the possession of the laptop and said, lawyer up and get out of our office. So it was, my father described it as the most humiliating experience of his life.
Really? And that's when you reached out to Trump's counsel?
No, not yet. My father and I were just kind of figuring out what we were going to do for about a month, and that's when an agent Joshua reached out to my father in an effort to get a hold of me. We agreed, and in mid-November, 2 agents came to my house in Wilmington, Delaware. They listened to my concerns. They once again refused to touch the laptop with a 10-foot pole. Then they came to my shop on December 9th with a subpoena, and they wanted everything. They wanted the paperwork, they wanted the drive, the backup, and the laptop. So I was happy to give it to them. Unfortunately, at the end of that interaction, that's when the one agent told me, after I kind of made a joke, said, hey, lads, I'll leave your names out of the book. And that's when Agent Mike turned around and told me that, in his experience, nothing ever happens to people that don't talk about these things.
Wow.
Okay, so now the FBI's got it, and then what happens?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was waiting patiently during the entire impeachment trial for this laptop to materialize for the White House's defense. And at the end of the impeachment trial, I realized that the FBI cared more about protecting the Bidens than they did about ever providing me any protection or acting on the criminality on the laptop. And my biggest fear was now I had a large federal agency that knew I was sitting on this laptop and knew what I knew. And they were obviously running interference for the Bidens. So that's when I sent my father and my uncle, who was also a retired colonel in the Air Force, to reach out to members of Congress. Because keep in mind, at this time, I was convinced that I could keep my identity a secret. I could do the right thing and not get caught doing the right thing. So sent my father and uncle off. They made multiple attempts over 2020, spring of 2020, to reach out to members of Congress. Unfortunately, there was this thing called a global pandemic going on, and I think Congress was so paranoid of being wrapped up in Russia disinformation or whatever that they were, our cries for help fell on deaf ears. And it wasn't until mid-August of 2020 that I decided to trade my fear for courage and reach out to Rudy Giuliani. Well, he was a lawyer for the President of the United States, and I tried the Justice Department, I tried Congress, so I figured the executive branch was our next place that I had to alert.
And you mentioned, just to fast forward, because we know a lot of the rest of the story has now been made public, but that backstory and the timeline is really important. You mentioned that, if people knew, you would have been run out of town on a rail, and that happened anyway. By the way, I also love the characterization. I was trying to get away with doing the right thing. What a commentary that is on where we are, getting away with doing the right thing. And I know what you mean, but it's just a funny way to say it. So what happened to you in town? Where do you stand now?
Well, October 14th, the New York Post broke the story. About 30 minutes later, I started getting death threats. I was able to keep my business open for probably about 3 weeks before it just got so, kind of hairy that I had to get out of there. I closed up my shop, and then I was on a plane out to Colorado, where I pretty much stayed in hiding for about a year.
Oh my God! And where are you now? Are you still, or do you not want to say
Undisclosed location.
undisclosed location? Well, do you feel
Bunker in the
safe, or
center
do you
of the
feel like
earth.
you're still being spied on?
Oh, I am definitely keeping my head on a swivel. No, so I tried to go up against Twitter in a lawsuit last year. I was defeated and punished by Twitter. The lawsuit was thrown out, and Twitter was awarded all the legal fees with the Florida slap statute. And that maneuver was designed to like just completely destroy me financially and make me take away my ability to defend my actions or hold those accountable in a court of law. So fearing bankruptcy, I had to move back to Delaware because if you don't occupy my home, I can lose it. So I've been hiding in Delaware now for about a year and just kind of keeping my head down. I don't go out of the house too much. I live 10 miles from Joe's house, and I got publications like the Washington Post putting out a hit call on Bob Alinsky and myself, saying that we're key witnesses to this in the congressional investigation. So yeah, no, I don't leave the house right now at all. So
yeah, I mean, not leaving the house. That's tough.
It's no way to live.
But were you political at all before this happened? I mean, do you have were you involved in any way, or do you have perspective?
No, politics weren't really the things that gravitated me towards other people. I'm a creative person, and my background, I like fixing Macs because I like helping people, and I love being a part of my community. And luckily, politics really never played into any of that. And so I grew up conservative. I have conservative values. I have a lot of liberal values. I think the term we used to use back in the day, which you're not allowed, you have to pick a side now, is fiscally conservative, socially liberal. But
yeah.
Again, now you got to pick a side.
So, but I mean, there's no animosity towards the Biden family. Was there any thinking about the Biden family? Obviously, they're the part of the landscape where you are in Delaware, but otherwise, no interaction, no interest, no animosity.
Well, the fact that Hunter decided to go on national television saying that he didn't know that it was his laptop, it could be Russian, it could be stolen, definitely didn't help my case. So, I guess that's why I've included Hunter on my latest lawsuit, as well as the campaign to elect Joe Biden.
Good for you.
Well, I know. So that's after everything happened. But prior to Hunter Biden walking in that fateful day, there was no interaction, right?
It was so low on my care level, I would have sat on it by accident.
Mm-hmm. John Paul McIsaac, the computer repair shop owner in Delaware, who, as you just heard the story, came upon Hunter Biden's laptop. His new book, American Injustice, My Battle to Expose the Truth. American Injustice, My Battle to Expose the Truth. John Paul McIsaac, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thanks for having the show, and have a great week.
Thanks, you too, and I'm definitely going to buy the book. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Willie Wilson for mayor of Chicago. The violence in Chicago must stop. Willie Wilson pledges real action to do that. A revised police structure, 4 superintendents, more accessible to their neighborhoods, providing faster communication and concentration of resources. Willie Wilson pledges more integrated police patrols to increase community confidence and cooperation.